Coming up on today's Alabama Football Report, some discussion on the College Football Playoff Committee, which continues to have one big thing wrong with their rankings again. We'll talk about Terrion Arnold putting in some extra work this season. A big-name potential transfer wide receiver might be coming to Alabama, and some updates on the recruiting side involving Kewan Lacy. All that coming up here on the Alabama Football Report. If you want Alabama to beat Auburn on Saturday, then like today's video right now. We have the data that proves it. The more likes we get, the more likely it is Alabama wins this week's matchup in the Iron Bowl against the Tigers. We begin, though, with some college football playoff rankings conversation. I will make note that Alabama, if they were to make it, at number 8 right now, would be the lowest ranked team at this point in the CFP history to make it to the Final Four. Here's what Kirk Herbstreit said about the Oregon ranking, and this is the thing that we're all bothered by around Alabama. I think Texas and others also bothered by this. Here's what Herbie said. You can make an argument that they have been the most consistent team all year, all the way up to this point. Offense, defense, every aspect that we've watched them play. What was it at halftime in Week 12? It was like they scored every possession. Bo Nix. Again, you look at the opponent and say who they're playing, or you can say, wow, Bo Nix is a veteran quarterback. He's been through every aspect this sport has leading the way. So is Oregon's ranking justified? Why for yes and for no? I do have an issue. How can you be the most consistent team when there are multiple undefeated teams ahead of you? That does not make sense to me. More conversation coming, but your chance to sound off. Why for yes and for no. Now, the alleged CFP criteria laid out per the committee themselves. Championships won, obviously winning your conference. Strength of schedule, head-to-head competition, comparative outcomes of similar games that have been played. Now, obviously, the big one we can't get to yet, championships won. Strength of schedule is a huge factor. And I am not going to argue Texas's placement. As I've said before, I'm a big believer in the games have to matter. Texas beat Alabama head-to-head. They should be in front of them, even though this is a different Alabama team than what we saw earlier on this season. I do think the committee should follow their own rules. And credit to them is they've always been pretty consistent. It's not on the criteria. The committee loves a quality loss. That's how Penn State is consistently a top 12 team with 0 noteworthy wins every season. They lose to Michigan, they lose to Penn State or Ohio State, they win all their other games, and they're right behind there as the top 2 loss team somehow. But strength of schedule is literally the second one on the list. And yes, Oregon has done a great job of blowing out the not good teams they've played this year. I will give them credit for that. I'm not saying they're a garbage team. But their strength of schedule is not good this year. Alabama's is 28th. I mean, people are like, oh, SC's not great this year. It's not that great this year. Oregon has not played anybody outside of Washington. I feel like they're still, right in the high of that, they beat Colorado, which Colorado is not good since then because turns out TCU sucks is kind of what we learned this season. Oregon has no wins right now against currently ranked teams. I think the committee made a mistake at the beginning of the year when they put Oregon at number 6, which also, how was Washington 5 at the time with their best win of anybody? Yeah, it just didn't make it. Frankly, Texas has the best win this year as far as I'm concerned. The committee is being a little bit spineless as far as I'm concerned. Every spot matters right now for Alabama. The hypothetical scenario could be Oregon beats Washington, Washington drops out, they avenge their lone loss, but their best win beyond that would be Oregon State, who's probably going to check in around 20th once the rankings are finalized there. So should strength of schedule be taken more seriously by this College Football Playoff Committee? I think most of us agree. Type in A for yes, B for no at the pinned comment of today's video. If the ad comes on YouTube, take advantage. Head down there and let me know. Let's talk Terrion Arnold here. Then we'll get to the Evan Stewart transfer rumors. Arnold's been driving to Atlanta after several games to get some work in with his defensive back trainer. Here's what Oliver Davis, the trainer of Arnold, said. If he felt uncomfortable with the situation or anything like that, he would want to work on it the next day. Out of just my own experience, working with a bunch of guys that has played at this level and in the NFL, I've never seen a college guy do that. Just the hunger for it is kind of crazy. It lets you know, for one, that he really loves the game and that you're dealing with a certain type of kid, like a leader. This is one of those examples where when I eventually do my draft notes, I'm not doing them yet because I don't know if he's going to turn pro. I think you're going to see a lot of coaches love the kid, hard worker, and a lot of the different from my own and other scouting reports out there. Now, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Head on over to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's you against the numbers. You don't have to battle thousands of other players, the pros, the sharks. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections. Watch those winnings roll in. My 3-player Prize Pick selection here. There are some bonuses going on around Christian McCaffrey. Those won't last forever, so didn't include it, but you guys can get in on those too. Brian Robinson, more than yards on the ground. Jordan Love, more than passing yards. And Jake Ferguson, more than receiving yards against a, not great Cowboys run defense, not great Lions pass defense, not great Commanders pass defense either. Once again, folks, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. Arnold has taken a significant step forward this year. His coverage numbers per Pro Football Focus, 56.5%, under 400 yards allowed, only 2 touchdowns, 10 pass breakups, 3 interceptions, and outside of that Texas game where Quinn Ewers hit some deep balls, he has been awesome this season. I think there's a very strong argument for Arnold being the most improved defensive player, maybe not just at Alabama, but among all college football players this season. Specifically for the Tide, who do you think is the most improved defensive player for Alabama? Sound off for me in the comment section right now. What is very interesting here is the transfer portal rumors that are going to begin around college football, and one player already linked to the portal and specifically linked to Alabama is Texas A&M wide receiver Evan Stewart. On3, Jerry Hamilton, one of the Texas insiders, says that Stewart is a strong candidate to enter the portal when that opens up on December 4th, and allegedly will not be traveling with the team to LSU this weekend. There were 4 teams mentioned by Evan Stewart, or for Evan Stewart, with Alabama considered the team to beat. Also mentioned were Ohio State, Texas, and Oregon. Landing a player of Stewart's caliber would be pretty darn significant for the Crimson Tide. After all, this was a consensus 5-star recruit who I think has been held back by not very good Texas A&M quarterback play, despite Jimbo being a quarterback whisperer or whatever. Here are the career stats for Stewart. 2022, 10 games played, 53 catches, 649 yards, only 2 scores. Again, not great quarterback play for the Aggies. Dipped a little bit this year. Fewer games played. The average went up. The touchdowns went up. Getting Stewart, who is, to a certain extent, kind of reminds me of Devonta Smith. Like both guys kind of similar builds, that very lean, angular frame. I think it would be a huge get for Alabama from A&M. So should Bama pursue Stewart in the transfer portal? I'm spamming my G's for go get him. P for, if you disagree, you can type in P for pass, which is kind of funny since we're talking about a receiver. Sound off in the comments section. G for get, P for pass. One recruiting note here, Kewan Lacy, the 4-star recruit, number 351 overall. He has now been linked to Alabama with a new projection going his direction for it to commit to Alabama. Only the number 351 recruit is still a 4-star. I will make note, there is no running back commit in the class of 2024. Alabama in general wants to take 1 or 2 guys each, like whether that be via transfer or more frequently for running backs in particular, just to be through the normal recruiting process. Bama is still in the mix for Daniel Hill, who we kind of dialed back the recruiting stuff during the season. We're going to ramp that up again with the season now almost over. Bama will keep talking to him and both of them. I would not be surprised they could get at least one, maybe even both of those guys. So prediction time for the recruiting cycle, since after all, National Signing Day, the early National Signing Day is like less than a month away. Going to be here real quick. Will Bama land Kewan Lacy and Daniel Hill? One, for they'll only get both of them, or only get one of them, excuse me. Two, for they will get both.